one of the things that we did as far as energy efficiency was we redid a lot of the kitchen appliances. So this is an induction cooktop that basically is all electric, will actually heat the water faster than gas, and is incredibly efficient. And these are the way to go. We also redid all the windows and made sure that they were all double pane, highly insulated. You know, again, these are the things that you do at first to make sure that you're getting the energy efficiency savings, because that's the most important piece, insulation of the house and other things. So this is our solar home. You've got actually several different solar systems that are on the roof here. If you look to the far right, you'll see two solar thermal. They're the larger panels. They actually heat hot water and are part of, the sun heats the water for our hot water heater. So those are the two. And then you have 36 of the older panels that were put on in 2009. They're part of the TVA program, and we sell that back to the grid. About 7.3 kilowatts of solar. And then we built an addition in the 2019-2020 timeframe, and these panels here are about 3.4 kilowatts. They are now behind the meter. We do not sell that to the grid. We actually run them into a Tesla Powerwalls, which is a storage system, and then we basically store that power and use it behind the meter at our home. So these are three different applications of using solar energy to actually heat hot water, feed back to the grid, or to actually go to a storage system. So one of the things to think about when you put solar on your home is that ideally you want to have a south-facing roof, south or maybe slightly southwest. We have a pretty good south-facing roof, but on our north side, we actually have used the north side of the roof to actually be where we put the solar tubes through, which are the penetrations here that then bring natural daylight into the house, and they're all along the north side of our roof. We have a total of 9 of them throughout our house, and they're quite remarkable because you literally, when a cloud goes over, they'll kind of dim, just like when you're outside. Sometimes when we're having a lightning storm, you'll actually see the lightning come through the light from the lightning will actually come through it. So it gives you a real sense of being, you know, connected with what's going on in the natural world in your home, as opposed to just having an electric light on. So you can actually turn on the lights, and it brings, at night, it's a traditional light, but during the day, it actually is using the sun. So when we talk about the larger system on the house, it's dual metered, meaning that there's a meter, the solar meter, that basically from the 7.2 kilowatt system that comes out, everything that is generated on that flows through this meter and then back out to the grid. The utility captures that reading and has the ability to monitor what my system is doing, and then they will compensate me for it. This is a solar disconnect that if the power ever goes out and the line guys are nearby and they want extra assurance that they won't get backfed onto the grid and get electrocuted, they can pull this down. This is my standard use meter. So when our home is pulling from the grid, this is just like everybody else's meter. It pulls through here, and it monitors how much energy we use on a monthly basis. This is kind of the brains of the Tesla Powerwall system and the power control system, because it can switch back and forth between putting stuff onto the grid or taking stuff off of the grid. And then this is just your standard disconnect that every system has to have for fire purposes. So this is sort of the control center for a number of the things. We've seen the solar systems that are on the roof, the 7.2 kilowatt system that feeds to the grid, and then the 3.4 kilowatt system that feeds behind the meter. So the way that works is, this is the inverter, meaning it takes the direct current from the solar panels on the roof and turns it to what you use in your home, alternating current, so from DC to AC. But because this 7.2 kilowatt hour system is backfeeding onto the grid and with an agreement with the local utility and TVA, we're selling it back to the grid right now at effectively retail, which is like a net metering agreement that we have for the second half. The first half of the 10 years, they were giving me a premium of roughly 12 cents above the retail rate. That went through this system and then back onto the grid. The second system that I installed with the addition to the house, we decided that because the utility was not giving any more of an incentive and it was more valuable to actually capture the power behind the meter, so to speak, where we use it all at our home and don't backfeed it onto the grid, this is an inverter also, changing from direct current to alternating current. But this in turn comes down and feeds these two units, which are Tesla Powerwalls. They're basically large batteries that basically store electrical power, and each one is 13.5 kilowatt hours. So together, the two of them are 27 kilowatt hours of storage. So what happens is, with the smaller system, the 3.4 kilowatt system, it comes down, goes through the inverter, changes it from DC to AC, and then it fills these power walls and replenishes them and keeps them charged up so that they can stand alone. So it all happens behind the meter. The utility doesn't see this. This is all happening at my home. And it's only when I need power do I pull it from the grid after these power walls have been utilized, or however I want to manage the storage. So we have two electric cars that basically are powered from home. This is a standard electric car charger for the Tesla, and you can just come home at night, plug your car in, and you can then tell the car when you want to draw the power from the grid. And that's very important because you don't want to be charging when the utility is at its peak, because that both costs the utility more and puts more pressure on the system. But having the ability at home to charge means you never have to go to the gas station anymore. You don't have to, you can do everything at home. Just come in, tell the car when you want, what charge state you want it to be when you leave in the morning, and it'll charge itself up overnight on an off-peak time that allows you to take advantage of getting the most cost-effective and cleanest power. So this is the Tesla app that basically gives you a visualization of what is happening with your solar system. This is tied only to the 3.4 kilowatt system because that's the one that's behind the meter, and that's what's feeding the Tesla Powerwalls. Sort of a schematic of the solar panels. This is the schematic of the Powerwalls, and then this is representing what is going to the home, and then this line would be what is going to the grid. What's happening right now is we're in a period where we have entered into agreement with the local power company, Knoxville Utility Board, where we are using time of use rates. Time of use rates is that they give us a designated period both in the winter of the year and the summer of the year, to where for 6 hours they consider it peak, and they are going to charge me a higher electric rate per kilowatt hour. It's over 21 cents if I use power in those 6 hours. If I avoid it, I get a discount for the other 18 hours of the days of the week, and on weekends and on holidays. I use the Powerwall and the solar system to make this house go off the grid during those 6 hours of being on peak. And you can tell that it's off the grid right now because the house is using 2.3 kilowatt hours of electricity. That's a home use. The solar panels right now, and there's some clouds outside, but it's generating 1.5 kilowatt hours of solar power in real time. That's the yellow that's coming down. And the power walls are represented here by this, and the green line, that is basically feeding the difference from the solar to what the house is using. And you can see it fluctuate, it just jumped up to 1. So as the solar changes and the house use changes, the power wall will compensate that. And you can see here, there's nothing being pulled. So when the grid is being activated, you'll see a line coming from the grid to feed into here. Right now, because we're in a peak time period, the solar and the power walls are feeding everything that the house needs. And effectively, from the utilities point of view, the house has dropped off the grid. It's completely off the grid right now and it's being self-sustained. What's happening is I'm avoiding those higher peak time rates. Currently, because we're in the summer cycle, they want me to be off the grid from 2 in the afternoon until 8 o'clock at night. So right now we're at roughly 3 p.m. and so we are off grid. I'm avoiding the higher rates. We're letting the sun from outside do most of the work for the house and the power wall to make up any difference if there's clouds or variation or the home spikes and needs more power, the power walls. And you can see the power walls right now are roughly at about 90% of their capacity. So they have plenty of juice to get us through until 8 p.m. as long as we don't go crazy. And like this would be a time you wouldn't want to plug your electric car in, and charge, because this is an on-peak time. And the difference between those two is pretty substantial, because if I was drawing from the grid right now, I'd be paying over 21 cents a kilowatt hour. The normal rate for people who aren't on time of use is roughly 12 cents. So that's a pretty significant jump. But in the off peak, I get a 2-cent discount for every hour. So I'm paying like 10 cents off peak. And that 10 cents then is for the other 16 hours a day, for the weekends and holidays. And so it ends up saving money. So over the past year, I've saved about between $400 and $500 by going off the grid. That's not a tremendous amount of money, but the other thing that's more important is I'm working with the utility as a partner, because what we're doing is, one, this is the most difficult time for them to supply power, so they're having to pull most aggressively from their system, and many times they'll have to use their dirtier fossil fuel power plants, the peaking units, and other things like that to supply the power. It costs them more, it has more environmental cost, but by going off the system during peak, you're basically taking some of that pressure off. All these things help lower their system cost for electricity, and so they pass that savings on to me as a customer. But we need more people doing this, and this is a smart way to do it because it helps decrease the peak load and lets the utility run their system more efficiently and more cost effectively. And because the sun is out, we're able to take advantage of using the sun to basically make the house disappear and save money for myself and also save money for the utility. And it's the environmentally right thing to do. So as part of the clean energy generation, we're all looking for ways to be part of the solution instead of being part of the problem. This house has a bunch of things integrated, but remember, we actually did it step by step. We didn't do it all at once. We initially did the energy efficiency investments, then we added the solar tubes, we added the solar thermal, which basically helped, again, all part of energy efficiency. Then we added the first solar system, and then later, when the utility wasn't providing the incentives and the technology continued to advance, we were able to add the second solar system and the behind the meter and the power walls to where we could do storage. All this stuff integrates because, again, when the sun comes up, there's no reason why we should be burning any fossil fuels at all, because the sun provides plenty of the power, and more homes that are becoming power plants, more solar systems going up, means that we don't have to use the fossil fuels. But don't be overwhelmed by this. This is just an opportunity of seeing how it all integrates. You can take each individual step as part of the solution also, and those steps really matter. Energy efficiency particularly, because the greenest electron is the electron we never use. And so now that we're starting to have the solar technology, we're starting to have electric vehicles, we're having storage, we're having all this stuff integrated with, smart meters and other things like that. The utilities beginning to offer these time of use rates. When all this stuff becomes integrated, then we can actually become part of the solution in a comprehensive way. But take it step by step. Do the things that make sense, that you can afford. Do the things that you can get started with. Energy efficiency first, then gradually move on, and then see the complete integration.